Hello, this is coding Gicha for full-stack developers. I covered NERDTree in a previous video. NERDTree is a great file explorer for Vim, but it feels a bit heavy. If you want a lightweight file explorer, Netrw, built into Vim, is a good alternative. For this reason and to compare it to Netrw, let's launch NERDTree. I've set the NERDTree toggle to F9. You can intuitively select and open files in the NERDTree window on the left. Press Ctrl F9 to focus the NERDTree window. Let's open another file. Close NERDTree with F9. You can close the buffer with :bw. This is a simple tutorial on how to use NERDTree as discussed in the previous video. This video covers how to configure Netrw, a built-in feature in Vim, similar to NERDTree. Netrw can be launched using :explorer. Unlike NERDTree, Netrw's default UI is a list, not a tree. Pressing Enter in a directory takes you into that directory, and pressing Enter in a file opens that file. The file browsing function is available, but it runs without splitting, and the screen moves instead of expanding the directory, which is a bit inconvenient and disappointing. However, Netrw has the advantage of being a built-in package, eliminating the need for additional third-party installations. After using Netrw, a .netrw hist file is created. This is the Netrw history file. While you probably won't be working in the .vim directory, unnecessary files can be reflected in your repository when managing your changes with Git. Let's add the .netrw hist file to the .gitignore file. In Vimy 2.6, I plan to allow direct editing of .gitignore files using the vim-ignore command. Since opening a file in Vim also creates a swap file, I'll also register the swp extension. Let's open the vim-rc.vim file in Vim again. Running it with :explorer opened it in the same window, which was inconvenient. If you want it to be vertically split on the left like the sidebar, you can run vim-explorer. However, selecting a file opens it in a newly split window. Using Netrw with its default settings is inconvenient. Let's configure Netrw to be similar to NERDTree. I'll set it to open in the window you were working on before the vertical split. If you set Netrw browse split to 4, the file will open in the previous window you were working on. I'll do the rest of the settings while watching Netrw run. The notification area at the top is a banner. Let's remove it. I'll display Netrw as a tree, not a list. I'll set the Netrw window width to 25%. Save and exit Vim. Let's restart Vim. Let's run vim-explorer. It doesn't have the same polish as NERDTree, but it's quite usable. The file opens in the right window where you were previously working. Let's run vim-explorer again. It doesn't open in the same window where Netrw was running, but instead opens in a new vertical split, creating two Netrw windows. Let's close all but the file buffer window on the right. Let's run 𝓿𝓲𝓶-𝓫𝓾𝓯𝓮, another command that splits the window vertically like vim-explorer and runs Netrw on the left sidebar. Unlike vim-explorer, 𝓿𝓲𝓶 has a toggle function. When toggled, the previous expanded state is not maintained. It's a bit disappointing that you have to go back to that location again. Let's also set a shortcut for Netrw. I've mapped the shortcut for NERDTree to F9. I'll map Alt F9 to the shortcut for Netrw. Let's also set the Alt F9 shortcut mapping for insert mode. Save and exit Vim. Let's reopen the vim-rc.vim file with Vim. Press the Alt F9 shortcut to launch Netrw in the left window, like a sidebar. If you press Alt F9 while Netrw is open, Netrw in the left window will be closed. Because it's a toggle, pressing Alt F9 again will open Netrw in the left window again. Let's exit Vim. Netrw can also use the 𝓿𝓲𝓶 font glyph icons. Netrw file icons will help. If vim-devicons is installed, Netrw file icons will use the NERD fonts glyph icons. Let's temporarily remove vim-devicons to check the initial state. Let's launch Vim. Let's execute Netrw with Alt F9. The file icons are now displayed, making them more readable. The emoji icons are colorful and all files are displayed with the same icon regardless of type. I'll improve this with glyph icons from NERD fonts. When applying vim-devicons, the folder icons will display the default folder symbol set in NERDTree, so they will be displayed in angle brackets. Before reinstalling vim-devicons, I'll comment out that setting so that it displays the original folder icon. Save and exit Vim. I'll reinstall vim-devicons. I'll restart Vim. Let's run Netrw. The folder icons have become more refined, and files are displayed with icons based on their file type. However, Netrw displays the same icon for both expanded and collapsed folders. When applying settings similar to Visual Studio Code's Tree UI in NERDTree, only closed angle brackets are displayed. However, I personally prefer NERDTree, so I'll use angle brackets instead of folder icons. Save and exit Vim. Let's reopen Vim. Let's run Netrw. Even though the folder icon is displayed as a directory arrow, it doesn't feel as awkward as you might think. Perhaps it's because I'm used to Visual Studio Code's Tree UI. Furthermore, Netrw's folder icon uses the NERDTree settings, so if you prefer Visual Studio Code's Tree UI over NERDTree, you'll have to forego the folder icon in Netrw. Let's check the status of the Vim configuration files with vim-es. The Netrw settings have changed Git files and added new package. Let's also apply these changes to the Vim integrated Git repository with vim-ep. Because I previously applied the .netrw hist file to the .gitignore file, the new history file was created locally, but not in the Git repository. Although this file is ignored by Git, let's delete it. Thank you for watching.